Welcome to Cue the Light podcast, where we explore the world of truth within conspiracy theories. Today, we're going to explore one of the most popular theories of all time, the moon landing. Did we really land on the moon in 1969? Or was it all just a Hollywood production? With NASA, Hollywood studios, and even Nazi members being suggested as possible conspirators. Let's start by looking at the evidence that suggests the moon landing was faked. Some people argue that the shadows in the photographs from the moon landing are inconsistent, indicating that multiple light sources were used. Some argue that the American flag that was planted on the moon appears to be waving in the wind, but there is no wind on the moon since it has no atmosphere. Others point to the astronauts' footprints in the lunar soil are too well defined for a place with 1/6 the gravity of Earth. Some even suggest that the flag appears to be waving as a result of a wire used to suspend it. There are no stars visible in the background of the moon landing footage, which some argue it's impossible given the lack of atmosphere to block their view. The transmissions from the moon were picked up by amateur radio enthusiasts, suggesting that the footage was relayed from Earth rather than being transmitted from the moon itself. The Apollo astronauts have never been able to recreate the same level of detail in their descriptions of the moon landing as they did during the actual events, leading some to believe that their memoirs of the event were implanted or coached. What was the true purpose of faking the moon landing? There are several theories that suggest it was done to win the Cold War. At the time, the United States was in a space race with the Soviet Union, and the Russians had already sent a man into space. If the Americans couldn't land on the moon, it would be a significant blow to their pride and a win for the Soviets. Others suggest that it was done to distract the public from the ongoing war in Vietnam. The moon landing was a massive media event, and it was broadcast live around the world. By faking the moon landing, the government could shift the public's attention away from the war and onto something more positive. Who was involved in the elaborate hoax? Some suggest that NASA was involved in faking the moon landing. NASA in Hebrew means to deceive. The key to understanding the moon landing hoax is to realize it's not scientific description, it's spiritual deception. Symbolism is important. The NASA logo includes the forked tongue of a serpent to symbolize that it's under the control of the great serpent, Satan. Many believe NASA was founded by Nazi occultists and rocket scientists who fled to America in Operation Paperclip. The occult nature of NASA is evident in the missions, landing sites, space modules, and events. NASA's projects are names after pagan gods: Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo. The most being Apollo 11, in which high-level Mason, Buzz Aldrin, and Neil Armstrong allegedly walked on the moon. In Revelations 9:11, we learn that Apollo is the angel of the bottomless pit. They argued that the agency was under tremendous pressure that faking it was the easiest way to do it. Others point to the involvement of Hollywood studios in creating the moon landing footage, suggesting that they were the ones who pulled off the hoax. Something to highlight: Stanley Kubrick met with NASA in 1965. Many believe Stanley Kubrick directed the moon landings. In conclusion, whether you still believe we landed on the moon or didn't, it's up to you to put together the pieces and use your own discernment. Many are starting to wake up and question what they were taught to believe, and are finally realizing the greatest achievement of humanity was nothing more than a Hollywood production. That's all for today's podcast. Join us next time as we dive even deeper into the world of truth within conspiracy theories.